Hi, YouTube. Cheers. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing a little bit better today. I got a little bit better sleep last night because I didn't have any sugar, and Doug did bring some brownies in um last night. They're sitting in the refrigerator. It's like I don't think so. Not at least last night. Not after being sick for like 3 4 days or more, so I thought I'm allergic to them, and a lot of the stuff that's in them, and soy and all that fat isn't good for anybody. So I thought I'd chat with you while I roll my cigarettes. We might get interrupted, but maybe not. I don't think so. So, but even if we do, we'll just work through it like we usually do. Life goes on, not a big deal. So, just like Doug, I'll have him say hi to YouTube a lot. He gets a little bit embarrassed, and then I'll pay for it later, but yeah, it's okay. Not a big deal. So, yeah, I got my work done today. I haven't done my exercises yet, but I'm debating on them because I did some really well, I did a bunch of squats the other day, and I have to be careful of a knee, but and other things, I watch myself now, because if I push myself and I don't really need it, then you got to give your muscles a hiatus so they sort of like heal. So when you're like building a new muscle in places that maybe you had them before, and they will come back maybe as good or maybe better. I'm thinking there's parts of me that even healed from sicknesses I had that made it so, like, if it made it where I couldn't use my leg, well, then my leg that hurt, um well, I got to rest like other parts of my body that probably needed to heal. It's strange. It's hard to explain, but like God is taking care of me the whole time. It's not like that. He does. And that's the hard part to explain, because you'd think, well, but he's with us every second. There's no escaping him. That's what I get the biggest kick. Oh, two things before if I were to get cut off. I deep clean this. I have no clue what's going on. So if it happens, I love you all, and I'll always be back. But and I'm gonna share a We Are Change that he had some really good coverage of what's just like 10 15 minutes of what's going on really, you know, today around the world and different things. So crazy things. One thing he did have that it looked kind of like set up, but were two rather large people going into Popeyes and stealing food, and some other things around the world that are going on like that. That's a bit bizarre, but I don't know. I mean, if I was starving, I might ask somebody if I could have some chicken if they came back out. You know, why steal? You probably get more if you ask. But maybe because they were quite large, maybe that. But I think it was all a put on. You know, just to show the way the economy is going right now. So that's part of what he'll have, like on We Are Change. His name's Luke. He'll have like little clips from other people that they've made, you know, something that's pretty cool, or just to make us aware of stuff that's going on. But yeah, he's talking about the ongoing premise of, he didn't say these words, these are my words to watch, how the algorithm rhythms will not get me if I watch myself, but the ongoing um 1984ish or isk situation we're going through. It's like, you know, it's never ending. It's like the same um, Vietnam or whatever, the same thing all over again, all the time. It was Korea before that, and Germany before that. And, you know, it just look around the world. There's always something that the United Kingdom and the United States have their noses in, controlling other people's countries, always in a big way. I have a theory on all the gold that is in the United States. Maybe a giant gold meteor, and not meteorite. Well, it might have been if it was broken off another chunk, is what made the Rocky Mountains and the Grand Canyon. And that's what they're mining for, was a part of that part of God that they're trying to remove from the planet. Just a thought, because they're doing a good job at getting it all out of here. So I don't know. I just have thoughts every once in a while. The other day I think of that a lot. And when I was living down in the southwest, um, and been all over the south, but the southwest going up into the west and the midwest looks like a bomb went off on the whole thing. That's what it's reminiscent of. When you travel it, it's like, and you'll see like charring and charcoal. They'll say, like, I lived in Colstrip, Montana, and they say like coal is like debris and whatever that's been um laying under the layers of the earth so long that it's condensed its carbon, you know, and that's true. But um, liquefy that now, and you've got the oil situation. These are something it's replenishable. It's always there. Where it left, it will come back in another area, you know. So, oh, I heard something very interesting. I can't remember where. Was these people that have like timber industry, lumber industry, will buy like large amount of acreage on mountains, and they would get paid by the government just to let those trees, I forget what they called it, sit for 100 years to reduce the carbon footprint. In the meantime, all these major fires have gone off, and I'm wondering now, and with all the waste of the timber, with all these very old trees and whatever, and weaponized fires, those types of things went through my mind when I was hearing this one. Um, Probably a timber giant as far as logging is concerned, because I met some of them logging outfits up in the mountains and all over the West, and even here in Minnesota, but some really big ones. I worked for American Wood Products that has lumber mills all over the place, literally. And it wasn't until it was funny. I worked for in a sawmill in the mountains in Montana. I got back to Minnesota. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I was. Yeah, I was here for another little time and then left again. But found out that there was the same company in Minnesota that made dome homes, and they were incorporated with their sawmills and logging operations and those types of things. But what I'm my point is with these big logging outfits is buying up the land, telling the government you're going to leave the trees for so long, then it ends up burning up, and they still got subsidized for those trees. And that makes me think then the government would go in or could go in and possibly buy that land up, or it would be for sale cheaper for, I don't know, there's something going on with it. It seemed really fishy. So I don't know. If I remember any more about that, I'll let you all know. But yeah, just odd. It was on very late night television on I think a channel called Quest, and they do all kinds of different things on that channel. So I seen them mining for gold over in Australia. They have a just a show. That's all they do is show the mining operation continuously. It's weird, but I don't know. It doesn't do it. I've been to like the big silver mines up in Minnesota too. Those are pretty cool. But the caverns that they dig out of the ground, just like they're doing for the silver out in Wyoming, that a lot of people don't know. They've dug a hole in the ground that is literally approximately a quarter to an eighth or a quarter to the size, depending on how much digging they've done these last 10 years. But at last estimated, a quarter of the size of the Grand Canyon they have dug out of the earth. Look into it. I'm not, this is no lie. And I don't remember the name of the mining operation, but it's real. And I've seen a lot of the mountainous areas just ripped up and raped, and then they replant it. They with their what they call like their um, ecological masters and engineers, and I met these people, and they're no different than anybody else. And as far as I'm concerned, when you go in and rip up a part of a mountain and then put even some of the native plants, back on that area, and they would replant them, but they're not planted like God would, and the hills don't look like they did, and the rocks and all of they terraforming it literally, and they sit down like ecomaniac architects and plan all this crap out. And I had this one engineer, come here, I'll show you. And we hiked up this mountain, and he showed me what he did. 17-year-old Barb, this is disgusting. What can I say? I lived on a ranch across the road in Downaways, which was out there. It's big land, and but it was thoroughly disgusting to me. Other people seemed to be, as far as the money is concerned, thrilled to death with the whole thing, but I wasn't too happy seeing all that. So I and I just thought what about natural caves and animals and all that were run off and then had to maybe eventually come back in that area? But, even depending on the time of the year, I've got animals around here that have been here. Their ancestors have been here from the beginning of bunny time or wherever, they've been here. And this is their home and their ancestors' homes. And, I wouldn't dream of wanting or even think for money to rip anybody's home apart and force them to relocate. Does that sound familiar in any country, like several countries? Or maybe that's kind of what's going on right now with people that are backed by Israel. And it starts with a U, and they're fighting the ones that start with an R. That's who they are. R, matey. you know, pirate joke there. Haha. Oh, I do have a joke I made up this morning. Um, I heard surgeons don't have to wear masks anymore because they just expect you to wear your 2 or 3. And then Doug said, and they're gonna social distance. That was a good one. They're already doing that by robotics anyway, so yeah. Yeah. Back on with the masks, I guess they say. And they said to go get your magic potions if you're 6 months old and even pregnant and 65 or older. We're all in danger. I got a screwed up immune system and I just had the flu and I'm fine. And I will be fine. But when I had that swine flu shot and they won't let me get another one, any kind of shot that has them same formatted germs in there. Um, anyway, I'll never do it. Never again. I was so stupid because I was working around animals, and my boss, the CDC recommended that all farm and ranch laborers and people working, veterinarians, and I worked with a vet too. Um, and who else? Oh, people in the farming industry, basically. Horticultural and animal husbandry of any kind, you know. So, yeah, they nailed us. That was bad, really bad. So, I think people, if they could hear me just say that, and I've told relatives this, if you can hear me say that, I was hospitalized and lost 30 pounds I couldn't afford to lose in 2 weeks, within a month, but the first 2 weeks it was the majority of it. And I did almost die. I couldn't eat. What do you do? You know, if you can't eat, you can't eat, you know? So, anyway, I don't think any of it's a good idea. Putting a part of a disease in you and then taking the risk when my immune system even battles harder than a lot of people's, and I don't have tonsils. I had the first, in the state of Minnesota, the first plastic surgery on my throat for my tonsils at a place called North Memorial Hospital. That's interesting, huh? And my doctor did come from the Mayo Clinic. I've had a kind of a, even when my mom had cancer, my adopted mom, have a long history of being around the Mayo Clinic, you know. So even a lot of doctors that I worked with were, from different training that they did, internships there. And so that's kind of interesting as far as science is concerned, because nursing was my very first well, I can't say training because I had all my Red Cross courses and all kinds of things, modeling classes. Oh, I mean, babysitting course, after school knitting class. I had band for my flute. Um, I don't know, all kinds of things, starting with my confirmation when I was 12, and took 3 years of that. I know all kinds of things that I did, achievements, So, junior firefighter, junior lifeguard. So, that's busy, you know. I could go on, there's more. But yeah, although I was always lonely and bored as hell, go figure, right? Yeah. Not, or maybe not always. I always had loneliness for people that were aware of the Spirit in God, of God inside their selves, and walked that way in their lives. I always had a longing to find a friend like that, like me, you know. And I often wonder still who is actually like that. And if they're not, can I help you be like that so I'll have a friend? you know, how's that? It's like, what? Wouldn't you like me if I'm not just like you? Well, of course I would. Wouldn't want you to be exactly like me. There's ways I failed. Don't do like me. Do like you, but do it better. Do it better than me. You know, that's what I wish for people. You know, be better than me. Way better. You know, and don't smoke and swear and threaten to beat people up when they hurt little children or anything. You can't do that in today's society, you know? Still thought it was funny that my neighbors wanted me to have a golden retriever. That was one of my first dogs. Queenie, somebody poisoned her. She died under my Victrola. I had a 1400 Victrola when I was a kid, and found it at a sale, and it had like maybe one record, or I think I got some later, and then we resold it when we moved. Um, but anyway, then my second dog was a border collie, a brown and tan and white one, little black in there, named Bobo, after Bobo the clown. I know there's another clown, Bozo, but Bobo's different, far older and way before Bozo. I used to get Bozo the Clown punching bags. They were made out of, they were like a real flimsy vinyl blow up thing, but they would wobble like one of them Weeble wobbles, only taller and skinnier, about half the size of a kid, so you could go up and you could smack it, and it would go down and come back up, and you could punch it again, and So I'd get them and I'd just like cold cock them things and they'd be gone. So I finally figured out it was a waste of money because if I really punched it like I knew how to punch it, it wouldn't work. You had to just, it was like just blowing something up just to kind of brush it around. You couldn't really smack that thing or anything like that. So I hit it so hard one time it went flying into my closet and it popped. And my friend's laughing next to me, you know. But she's pretty good at punching too, but just not really good, you know. So anyway, little girl compared to me, real tiny, my friend Patty. So I'll tell you a quick story before I leave about Patty and I, and people not watching their children, no matter the era. They had just put tar on our street, and we were like 4 and 3.5, and I was showing her how to take a stick and pull the hot tar out of the road. And it shows us later in my swimming pool. We're both sitting there all covered in tar, and we had to have a bath in gasoline that my dad helped with when he got home. That was the only way they could remove it. I think they could have took us to the doctor and they probably would have used alcohol. Might have been a little less toxic. That's what happens when you don't watch your kids. So, anyway, it is a pretty good picture, though, actually. I had my one kid when he was 2.5. Open up the door with the lock and the deadbolt. I go, okay, I was scrubbing out the tub. I had the kids' clothes laid out on the bed. They got out of the bath, and I told them to go get dressed. So Luke's getting dressed. John unlocks the door. I'm still cleaning the tub. It's just a matter of seconds. And my landlord luckily saw him buck naked running down the sidewalk, grabbed his hand, and was bringing him back. When I came out of the bathroom, asked Luke, "Where's your brother?" We didn't know. We went to the door, it was open, and here's my landlord with my kid, just that quick, about that quick. So then I started putting knives in the door jamb. I go through the trim and put it in front of the door up on top, where even if he got a chair, he couldn't get it out, not at that age, you know. So, and that came in handy when I kicked their dad out of the house and put knives in all my windows and door jambs. So I had to. This was a really violent situation we were all in. It was a really horrifying, terrifying situation. So beyond what you'd really ever think. So I sure didn't think it, so I don't know why anybody else would, you know, unless he'd probably been there, but yeah. Moral of the story is if you're gonna marry demons, um, you better have God on your side because it's always gonna be a battle, you know. There's no doubt about it, you know. But this is the last generation, and they have so much God's blood in them right now. The struggle within themselves has to be just, it has to be horrifying for them, for their thoughts and their flesh and their heart to betray their demon selves. And that's what's going on. That's the hell they're going through, believe it or not. That's what they're going through. So, well, I'm going to let you go. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to put a link to the We Are Change. I think you'll enjoy that. Not very long, but pretty informative. And thank you for joining me. Have a really good night or day wherever you're at. Peace and love from Pine City, Minnesota, USA.